There's a game that's haunted Star Wars fans for nearly 2 decades. A game so anticipated, so cursed, that it never seems to escape the shadow of its legacy. That game is Star Wars Battlefront III. For years, rumors swirled, leaks dropped, hype built up, and just when it looked like it might finally happen, it all came crashing down. This is the story of how one of the most beloved Star Wars series fell into development hell and why Battlefront III may never escape its curse. In the mid-2000s, the Star Wars Battlefront series emerged as a beacon for fans yearning to immerse themselves in the galaxy far, far away. Developed by Pandemic Studios, these titles weren't just games. They were interactive Star Wars experiences that set new standards for the franchise in the gaming world. Released in 2004, the original Battlefront allowed players to step into the boots of a soldier from various factions, engaging in large-scale battles across iconic locations. With over 4 million units sold, it was evident that fans were eager for such an experience. Building upon its predecessor, just 1 year later in 2005, Battlefront II introduced several enhancements, such as playable heroes and villains, space battles, galactic conquest mode, and they also greatly enhanced multiplayer with support for up to 64 players online. By 2007, Battlefront II had sold over 6 million copies, solidifying its place in gaming history. These titles weren't just successful, they became cultural touchstones for a generation of gamers. Their blend of large-scale battles, iconic characters, and immersive settings set a high bar for future Star Wars games. The anticipation for Battlefront III was palpable, but as history would show, its journey would be anything but smooth. So by 2006, Battlefront was on fire. 2 smash hit games in 2 years, millions of copies sold, and a fanbase foaming at the mouth for more. So naturally, Battlefront III gets the green light. And LucasArts doesn't want a sequel, they want a revolution. They turn to Free Radical Design, the UK studio behind the great Time Splitters games. This may seem out of left field, but it kind of makes sense. Free Radical had proven they could do fast, fun, chaotic shooters, and more importantly, they were very hungry for something new. So LucasArts handed them the keys and told them, make the biggest Star Wars shooter ever. And Free Radical didn't flinch. An anonymous developer would be quoted with saying, "We were trying to build the most ambitious game we'd ever worked on. It wasn't just Battlefront II with more maps, it was something completely new." They were going all in. Better graphics, smoother mechanics, deeper maps with seamless transitions from ground to space, and more importantly, a proper campaign mode. This time following a clone of a Jedi Master who defects from the Republic after it's converted to the Empire and joins the Rebel Alliance, offering a more personal and character-driven narrative than previous entries. Literally everything that would make the perfect Star Wars Battlefront III was in this game. And the crazy part is they were actually making it work. Even their most grand ambitions were working seamlessly. Everything they sought out to accomplish, they did. Ground to space battles, the overall story, the gameplay mechanics, everything they wanted was actually working and the game was coming along quite nicely. However, behind the scenes, it was a total mess. LucasArts started shifting priorities. Management changed, budgets got tighter with some Free Radical devs saying milestones just kept moving. 1 week they were on track, and then the next week they were greatly behind schedule. Not because of delays, but because the goalposts kept shifting mid-sprint. Some reports claim LucasArts stopped paying on time. Others' internal builds weren't stable. Either way, it all came to a head in late 2008. LucasArts, seemingly out of nowhere, just pulled the plug on the project. Now, bear in mind, this is still 4 years before the Disney acquisition, so it's not a transitional folly like Star Wars 1313 was. LucasArts said Battlefront III was 50 to 75% complete, with massive bugs and unfinished systems, but a Free Radical dev would later state the game was actually closer to 99% complete. Needless to say, this was a shocking development, and after the game was canned, Free Radical collapsed. Developers were laid off, the studio went into financial administration, and in 2009, the studio was acquired by Crytek and renamed to Crytek UK. So after Free Radical's Battlefront III was unceremoniously axed, you'd think this would be the end of it. But no, it actually gets a lot more complicated and a lot more interesting. While Free Radical's Battlefront III was cancelled before completion, elements of its story and mechanics didn't die with it. They were retooled and repurposed for the 2009 PSP game Star Wars Battlefront Elite Squadron. Developed by Rebellion, Elite Squadron loosely adapted the original campaign concept, following X2, a clone of a Jedi Master who, like in the scrapped version, struggles with loyalty, identity, and ultimately defects from the Empire to fight for the Rebellion. The game traces X2's journey across the Clone Wars, the rise of the Empire, and into the Galactic Civil War, echoing the generational arc and emotional beats originally intended for Battlefront III. It also implemented a scaled-down version of the seamless ground-to-space combat concept, albeit far more limited due to it being on a PSP. While not a perfect substitute, Elite Squadron became the closest fans ever got to actually experiencing the bones of Free Radical's vision, until rather recently. You see, the game's ghost refused to rest because in all the years following the cancellation, whispers of Battlefront III's near completion began circling. Then, in 2009, the first tangible proof of existence surfaced. Leaked footage from a Free Radical in-house showing dated November 2008. This pre-alpha build showcased everything they boasted about. Seamless ground-to-space transitions, new units, and faster gameplay, all branded with the Free Radical design logo. These leaks weren't just fleeting glimpses. They were extensive showcases of the game's ambitions. Players witnessed troopers sprinting through Coruscant, engaging in space dogfights, and boarding enemy cruisers. One particularly striking scene even depicted a clone trooper confronting his dark reflection, hinting at a narrative depth previously unseen in the series. Now, fast forward to 2024, and the community was treated to an even more substantial revelation. A fully playable Wii build of Battlefront III dated a week before the project's cancellation was recovered from an old Free Radical Wii test kit. This build, more advanced than the previously leaked Xbox 360 prototype, offered a comprehensive look at the game's near final state. The discovery sent shockwaves through the fanbase. Discussions erupted on forums and social media, with many expressing a mix of awe and sorrow over what was lost. The Battlefront 3 that fans had yearned for was, in many ways, really real, and it was heartbreakingly close to completion. After the collapse of Free Radical's Battlefront 3, the franchise was dormant. But in 2013, a new contender emerged, EA DICE. With a fresh vision and cutting-edge technology, they aimed to resurrect the beloved series. And in 2015, EA DICE released Star Wars Battlefront. And while being one of the first to start this trend of releasing new games with the same title of their older counterparts, Battlefront 2015 was nothing short of a visual masterpiece. I mean, seriously, this game still looks better than most games out there even 10 years later. Utilizing the Frostbite 3 engine, the game developed photorealistic environments, meticulously recreating iconic locations like Hoth, Endor, and Tatooine. The sound design was also equally impressive, capturing the essence of the Star Wars universe. However, beneath the stunning visuals was a game that was just totally incomplete. The absence of a single-player campaign was a significant omission, especially for fans craving a narrative-driven experience. EA Studios Executive Vice President Patrick Soderlund explained that the focus was to coincide with the release of The Force Awakens, prioritizing a timely launch over comprehensive content. The multiplayer modes, while engaging, also lacked depth. The game featured only 4 planets at launch, and a limited selection of heroes and villains. Critics and fans alike noted the lack of variety and reliance on future DLCs to flesh out the experience. EA then sought to address the shortcomings of the 2015 release with Battlefront 2 in 2017. This sequel promised a fully fledged single-player campaign, playable heroes and battles from all 3 Star Wars trilogies, and a more expansive multiplayer experience. The campaign introduced players to Iden Versio, an Imperial Special Forces commander, offering a somewhat unique perspective on the Galactic Civil War. While the narrative had great potential, many felt it was extremely underwhelming and failed to deliver on a compelling story. However, the game's most significant controversy stemmed from its progression system. At launch, Battlefront 2 featured loot boxes that impacted gameplay, allowing players to gain an advantage through real money purchases. This pay-to-win model sparked widespread backlash, not just from gamers, but from lawmakers as well. In November of 2017, Hawaii State Representative Chris Lee condemned the game's microtransaction system, labeling it a Star Wars-themed online casino designed to exploit children. He argued that the randomized loot boxes, which allowed players to purchase advantages, were akin to gambling. This controversy surrounding Battlefront 2 led to widespread discussions about the ethics of loot boxes and their potential to encourage gambling behaviors among younger audiences. In response to the backlash, EA made several changes to the game's monetization systems, including removing pay-to-win elements and focusing microtransactions solely on cosmetic items. Regardless, this controversy basically killed the game before it even had a chance. The backlash was so severe that EA had to hit the brakes hard, delaying content, reworking progression, and doubling down on damage control. And once the dust settled and the microtransaction mess was cleaned up, the game found its footing. The large-scale battles, iconic Star Wars moments, and tight gunplay started resonating again with the community. Player retention climbed back up, and EA even released a steady stream of DLC content, adding new maps, heroes, and game modes. Yet, despite all of this, the damage was already done. Battlefront's brand recognition took a big hit, and it was clear EA had to rethink their entire approach. As of now, EA has no confirmed plans to develop Battlefront 3. The company had recently announced a strategic focus on a select few franchises, including Battlefield, Apex Legends, The Sims, and Skate. Notably, the Star Wars franchise is represented solely by the upcoming third installment of the Jedi series. This, to me at least, suggests that EA is not prioritizing the Battlefront series at this time, nor has there been any internal development of Battlefront 3. So where does this leave us? Despite being a beloved franchise, the series became kind of a cursed project because of the toxic combination of overambition without stable management, shifting corporate strategies, technical hurdles, fan expectations, and all of the EA controversies. Every time rumors or leaks surface, fans get excited, but the business realities make it unlikely that the game will ever hit shelves in a form that satisfies everybody. Despite the massive Battlefront 2 community resurgence in 2025, unless major internal shakeups happen, like a new publisher picking up the license or EA radically changing course, Battlefront 3 might remain a legendary what-if in gaming history. Because Battlefront 3 isn't just hard to make, it's hard to make right. The series demands cutting-edge tech, massive scale, narrative depth, and flawless execution, yet it is under the watchful eye of a giant corporate IP holder with fleeting passion next to an extremely passionate fanbase with sky-high expectations. Add to that EA's caution from past failures and shifting business priorities, and you've got a perfect storm keeping Battlefront 3 locked in limbo.